Alrighty, guys, welcome back here to the ESL Major League Americas. I'm Solid Jake.
And I'm Kubi.
And yeah, we've got our second series of the night ready for you in just a moment. Now, looking at that, we already had Lunatic and Tempo Storm, and Tempo Storm took that series 2-0, but Lunatic, they put up a good fight. But Kubus Maximus, what do we have for our second series tonight?
We have none other than Barrel Boys versus 2ARC Iliad.
Oh my goodness.
How exciting. And you know why it's exciting, Jake? It's because that is the top two spots right now in the group play.
First seed versus
ranking.
Second seed.
That's right. And this is a big battle for... A lot can actually happen with one series. We were just doing the maths just before we came back live. And as you guys can see with the current standings... Now, you don't get all the information there because you don't have the map split. If 2ARC wins 2-0, they will take the first seed. If they lose 2-0, they will fall to third. If they win 2-1 or lose 2-1, they stay second, I think.
Yeah, I think they only have to take one game, they remain second. So that's all they have to do. Is take one game, they remain second seed. But if they get 2-0, like you said, that'll put Tempo Storm above them. So they can it can literally all get swapped around in terms of Tempo Storm moving up to second potentially. 2ARC could be first, second, or third. Barrel Boys, of course, cannot drop to third as Tempo Storm's final placings are going to be 5-2. Pretty much everyone below 3 to 8, that's all finalized, and this is the final game of the group stage.
That's right. That is right. So we got an exciting match between Barrel Boys and 2ARC Iliad, a match that has been waiting to happen since the first week. Although we got to say, we probably weren't expecting 2ARC to play so well. They have been really bringing it.
Yeah.
They've been bringing the heat.
At the start of the season, we weren't expecting a lot out of them. We really weren't.
They hadn't been placing that well.
At the start
it's very reasonable to make that assumption because their placings for probably the month prior to this ESL group stage, they weren't impressive. And as soon as they got into this league, they've been playing well and they've been taking huge wins.
I mean, I would have said the other three teams, yeah, we expected them to be here. And Murlocs probably would have been that fourth place spot based on the start of the season, but 2ARC proved themselves. They've played so well, and Barrel Boys open up this draft with a ban on Tyrande, the follow-up Illidan out of 2ARC.
Okay, so no healers, taking Tyrande aside, but she's more of a pick comp style hero that's really going to be the kingpin.
She's a playmaker.
She is. She fits into a lot of compositions, mostly with Stitches, sometimes with Diablo. But we do see that synergy between those two heroes specifically, Tyrande and Stitches.
Yep.
And we actually saw a ban on Tyrande in the last series from Tempo Storm. They just didn't want to deal with that composition style. So we have the ban on Illidan, which means none of the top two quote-unquote supports are out. So we do see the Barrel Boys opt to grab the Rhaegar immediately.
Yeah, nice pickup, and the Uther response is there, and they will likely go for a big damage dealer. And yes, they sweep up that Vala. Pretty standard stuff. I mean, the supports, they're highly sought after. When you see one of them get picked up, you kind of force your opponent to spend a slot on that, because if you see Uther and Rhaegar in one team, it gets real scary.
Yes, it is a difficult composition to work around. Tassadar, I'm expecting probably for Barrel Boys to see some more neutral style picks. Thinking Tassadar. And then do they want to try to secure their warrior? I think that's the big deal. If they want to go double support, okay, there's the Tassadar. If they want to go double support, they can leave it to a little bit later in the pick, I think, because there's already the Uther down, so they will have choices if they really want to go double support. I think picking up the Tassadar is a safe pick, and they opt to go for Zagara, which was played both games in the previous series, and now game one, now picking up steam.
We know that Tempo Storm and Barrel Boys, they scrim together quite a bit. And we saw Tempo Storm really just, prioritizing that Zagara usually halfway through the draft. Teams are starting to find that just the power, especially in Sky Temple of the Hydralisk, to threat and then just dish out damage.
Yes.
That is one thing alone, but we saw some ridiculous Maws in that last game.
We did, and it actually had quite a bit of synergy with Lili that we pointed out a couple times with the Maw buying time for the enemy team to heal up, made some plays, really turned some fights around.
You know, little bit off point, little bit off topic. I do my show, The Daily Quest, right? I was doing that today, and I got a replay from K1 Pro and Cloud9 Maelstrom. This was a quick match game from Cloud9, but one thing they did is they did Tassadar Zagara, but they did Maw Force Wall. Now, I don't think we'll see that here.
Jake's
but
hoping.
it was, you know, it's something that teams are obviously trying because it was a quick match game
Yeah.
that they played, you know, on the ladder, and it was a really exciting style. So it's cool to see teams trying that out.
You know what? Quick match, that's the lab.
That is the lab.
That's where some crazy ideas have been born. I can almost guarantee you that's where the Asmodan strategy was born. I think, actually, if I remember correctly,
we have quotes from them saying they just kind of did it and it worked. They just tried it
out, and yeah.
And that's what you got to do. You got to go to the lab. You got to study. You got to research.
It's good. It's a good point. So maybe that's where we see these crazy strategies. All right, 2-arc. Okay, I was gonna say I was expecting ETC to fill out the Protect the Hammer style composition.
Yeah, me too. I'm actually kind of surprised by the Stitches. Now, Stitches is obviously very good.
Yeah, Stitches Uther especially.
Very true. But ETC has that global presence.
Right.
And there's so many points in time where that can just benefit so much in terms of whether it's just sitting on a temple, you know, getting that extra soak, or what. And I would be shocked if Barrel Boys does not grab ETC with this composition.
I think it is going to be ETC. And I don't expect to see double healer. For Barrel Boys, is just not enough damage. There's just not enough damage between Zagara and Tassadar.
But
so ETC and another damage. The amount of control they have isn't really anything to write home about, with the exception of Maw.
I want to see Tychus.
Tychus would be all right.
I just like Laser Drill a lot on this map, and when you look at Vala and Hammer, they're both picked up. There's enough threats to Nazeebo, and I don't necessarily love Nazeebo on this map.
They only have one imposing presence. Let's see. Lost Vikings any good on this map? What do you think?
Yeah, definitely viable.
There's
definitely
another
viable.
hero that has been being played more.
They've seen
Not
a lot
played
of play
last
recently.
series, but
definitely viable, but I think they need. Oh, they have the Zagara for range. I don't know. I prefer range.
I was thinking Jaina, but is that too difficult for Jaina to get into an effective range when trying to deal with a hammer? I think that's the big question they're trying to ask.
No, compositionally, Jaina can make a lot of sense in terms of like speccing into Blizzard, or not even just speccing into it, but just Blizzard in general, paired with the Maw, where you get the Maw and you throw down the Psystorm and the Blizzard. But they do opt for Tychus. Again, Laser Drill is so powerful on this map.
You're right, especially when you know you're going to be taking team fights at specific points in time. Yes, the enemy team could decide to see the drill and leave, but they're giving up something more when they do that. Not just forcing them to waste the drill, but they're probably giving up a temple, which means a lot of structure damage.
And imagine being a Sergeant Hammer sieging up and just having a drill plop down next to you. It's just like, oh, I'll leave. Yeah. I'll leave.
I was expecting to see the second support. Yeah. Thinking either Brightwing or Malf. I think Hammer tends to lean towards a bit of a slow play.
Yes.
Still gotta question the Stitches. We've even seen them run defensive Tyrael.
I think this is just going to be that hyper sustain style Stitches that just does not die.
Or sure, but when it boils down to it, the usefulness of the hook can't be denied.
True.
And it has proven itself time and time again to be a very critical part of Stitch's kit. And when you think that the hook is more or less the opposite of what Hammer wants, you know. So we'll be paying attention to it to see where they use the hook. Maybe they just reserve it for very, very specific. Yeah, we pull this person. There's almost no way that the rest of the team can get there.
That's the power of hook. Even without the Lunar Flare, they do have the root too. So you have to consider the roots can go down and Uther. So they have a lot of stun capabilities. Hooks can change fights. We saw that in the last series. Lunatic was really capitalizing on those hooks, and that was on Sky Temple.
They do have a lot of stun and lockdown. That's absolutely true, but the damage output, the burst damage output, I should say, I'm not sure it's there. So it's probably going to be less of an emphasis on hooks, unlike what we saw, like you were mentioning, with Lunatic Esports. So I don't. They had the option to grab ETC. I'm just maybe they just don't feel comfortable on ETC. We could be overlooking it, or overthinking the situation. Maybe they just don't feel comfortable and know that they can still achieve good results with Stitches. And if they were forced to play ETC, then maybe it'd be less than even what Stitches with the less well-designed kit for that purpose still can get a lot done.
Either way, I mean, it's a fine pick, and it will definitely lean a little bit more towards that pick style, like we mentioned. But I'm excited for this game. I think it's going to be.
Yeah, this is it. This is the final series of the ESL NA Major League group stage. And this is for seed points. This is quite a bit can shift with just this one series.
Yeah,
and this is for seeding for the playoff bracket,
which is a $4,200 prize pool.
That is the largest prize pool that we've seen.
Period.
Yes, for Heroes so far.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of dough.
That is a lot of money, indeed.
You could, if that was dough, you could make so many cookies.
Okay, cookie dough. Yeah, you say dough, and I'm just like immediately pizza dough pops in my head. So you're like cookies, and just
why pizza and not bread?
Out of thin air, pizza dough just plops down in the camera. I'm like, those would be some disgusting cookies. That was my thought process right there. Right. So I'm just like dough, and I'm like, oh, all right, cookie dough. I guess that's a thing. I'll let it slide. But I want you to know what my mental image was.
All right, I can accept that. Well, Kubi, why don't we introduce the teams?
Absolutely. For Barrel Boys on the blue side, we have Blinks on Rhaegar. Trumble's going to be playing Zagara. Kionda is going to be on Tychus. Arrow on ETC. And McIntyre on Tassadar.
And on the other half of the map, we do have 2-Arc Iliad, with Quipsy playing Sergeant Hammer. Panucci on Stitches. Trader playing Vala Furious D. Going to be rocking the Uther. In Chubbs sitting there on Malfurion. He's got that Stormwatcher skin. Stormcaller?
Stormcaller?
Something like
nice
that.
Staff.
Why is he riding a Battle Beast, though? It's just... Look at
like
the thing's head bob around.
Not enjoying it?
No. I don't like it at all.
Everyone, tweet at Chubbs. Let him know that Jake does not approve of his mount. It just doesn't approve.
I hope you guys tweeted lots of steamboats.
Yeah, we do those steamboats.
Daihu that last game. All right, looking at the talents, pretty standard stuff. Double Conjurer's Pursuit, 4 healers. We do have Chewy Boot on Stitches, leaning towards that hyper sustain style. Maelstrom Shells on the hammer. Of course, advanced artillery. Excuse me.
Yes. Still no Zagara bottom lane. That's the other thing I was looking for. Do we have Hammer or Zagara in the same lane? No. Never mind, that's not even the same team.
You can look at it in two different ways. You can say Zagara is really good at just holding on the bottom lane, or you can say, well, if we grab the first temple and we can get a lot of push to it before we grab it, well, then that damage goes straight onto the fort instead of these towers.
Sure.
And already the bottom tower in the top lane has taken a ton of damage.
And not only that, a lot of ammunition has been depleted, even though, of course, we don't see the Demolitionist talent grab. Just throwing down the Roaches and the Hydras is just a ton of soaked shots from the towers. And look at this, yeah, they already have themselves quite a bit of aggression, but not to discount 2-Arc in the bottom lane, or excuse me, the mid lane. They have also taken out the bottom tower there, so fairly even. Yeah,
fairly even. It looks like they're going to just barely not finish this one off before the temples spawn. Temples will be spawning now, and actually before it even, yeah, 1 shot, 2 shots onto it. Nicely done by Barrel Boys, getting a nice start, but in the middle lane, it's a very similar story for 2-Arc.
Yep. Uther being tasked to hold down the mid tower for 2-Arc, and for Barrel Boys, Blinks, so just send the healers to do it. They can handle it. And meanwhile, the rest of the team for both sides are putting on even more aggression for the appropriate lane. This is probably the first game that I've casted where we just see so much of both teams just ignoring each other straight up and just getting very aggressive to that fort to try and capitalize on that experience lead. And honestly, Barrel Boys are finding themselves very much in the lead in that sense.
Right, they're getting that damage done. I mean, the first fort has fallen, but this middle fort is being sieged up by both the Temple and Hammer, and it will fall. So 1-to-1 in terms of those forts, but you have to look at, is this Tychus versus Malfurion? And now that Tychus has Melting Point, this bottom lane is very much in favor of Barrel Boys. McIntyre already just using that Hearth to go back home, but aggressively we see these Giants being picked up. The Clairvoyance is there. Urho is in position, and the rotation is happening for both Tassadar and Zagara. Urho will contest, dives in, caps that. They're going to get a potential. No, the roots scare him off, and nicely done maintaining their aggressive pickup on those Giants.
Absolutely. So Urho analyzed the situation very quickly, said, okay, I have the potential to stay here and stall this out. Looked at the amount of damage output, quickly said, no, this is going to result in my death, and we're going to lose the Giants. It's too much. We'll just back off here. Although they had the rest of the teammates were rotating in. It's a good snap call, and they opt to just cut their losses.
And there is, once again, clairvoyance being used, just kind of revealing the positions across the map as often as possible. Of course, Farsight is the name on Rhaegar, and we see Tenderizer picks up. So it's going to be the Amplified Healing. Again, very hard to kill the Stitches, especially when you consider Malfurion and Uther on this team.
That's a good point, and I think that's more or less what we predicted to see. Very early Bruiser camp has been grabbed for Barrel Boys. I think we can expect to see the bottom temple appear around the 430 mark. Quibsy under a bit of pressure from Keonda's overkill there. Not going to be enough to chase the kill. Right, so 430 is likely when we're going to see, I didn't quite catch the exact time that the last temple ended up dissipating, but since both teams capped them pretty much as soon as they started, it's going to be a fairly early bottom temple. That said, I'm looking at what 2Arc is opting for. Actually, Uro is in quite a forward position, just trying to keep an eye on the rotation for 2Arc to capture this Bruiser camp, because they want to capture it as close as they can to this bottom temple. They're actually not going for it at all.
I think that the presence is really nice, because not only is he keeping Stitches up there, he's pushing with his own Bruisers, protecting them, and preventing them from getting their Bruisers safely. So with that bottom lane spawning, yeah, 2Arc, they have that fortification, but level 10 should be reached a little bit sooner by Barrel Boys, and then they have that stage dive option to get across the map very quickly.
Right now, 2Arc is in a very, very nice spot in terms of capturing this bottom temple. Is there going to be a rotation for Barrel Boys? We'll have to keep a close eye. It is a narrow choke that they're going to be passing through. Quibsy is sieged up. The difficult area to pierce. Still, the numbers game is in favor of Barrel Boys, and I'm just waiting for the moment for them to get aggressive. Who are they going to choose to dive onto? It looks as though it's going to be Quibsy. Does he have the heals from the double support to keep him alive?
Certainly looks like it.
He does.
It's just so hard to penetrate that. He's just sitting in the back. As soon as they unleash their cooldowns, he's able to dish out a ton of damage and peel off. The 10 has been hit for both teams. You can take a quick look at those heroics in the bottom. The stage dive is there. Going on in. Strafe is doing a lot of damage, but the Maw picks up both Quibsy and Trader. And there we see the Odin being used. There is the damage, unloading Quibsy in the back line. Ancestral connects on Urho, but he sieges up. But man, the Odin range is something we have to talk about, because he can hit from so far.
This is a good point, and he is making sure to unload all that damage onto Furious D. So I like the Ancestral healing onto Arrow. The only, I guess, misplay of that situation was that he had no mana left to continue patrolling for the team. I think that's why we see Barrel Boys backing up here. Yes, the Odin was getting a lot of work done. They were probably trying to maximize the time left on that, but they weren't going to be able to push any further forward because of that lack of mana for both teams.
Nicely done by both teams, you know, just equally respecting each other. Farsight revealing the potential of 4 members here. They're looking to grab that lone giant. Trummel, very low health, just dodges the hook barely, and these giants will not be able to be picked up by Urho, dashing forward. But Panucci looks like he might fall here.
Yeah, the double support is not going to be enough to keep him alive, even with that amplified healing. So they find themselves down. A member 2Arc does, and they have to back up. They did steal the Giants. Small win. Is it worth losing the kill, though? All right, let's talk about Odin. Let's talk about the Odin. Aside from the extra quote-unquote HP bar that the laser drill provides, I would say that the 2 heroics fill a very similar role. You need to make sure that, one, you have a very good grasp on whether the fight is going to start, and to make sure that the enemy team can't disengage. There's a lot of opportunities where it's a lot can be said for flanking with both of the abilities. So I'm going to be paying a lot of attention in the future to see what effectiveness teams get out of Odin and what they get out of Laser Drill, and compare the two. Because we may end up seeing that one just gets chosen exclusively over the other.
That's true, but I think Odin might be something similar to what we saw out of Jugs last game, where it just pairs really well with Maw. Because as soon as we saw the 2 targets get caught by that Maw, Odin just went down immediately as a reaction. So really cool stuff, because that's the problem with Odin. If you can disengage from it, its effectiveness is, well, minimal. Right. And look at this. Barrel Boys, they're starting on the boss. Top lane, top temple being taken by 2Arc, but they're pushing in with the team. Hook will be dodged by Urho, and this boss will be secured by Barrel Boys.
It's a boss and a temple. We have to take into account that McIntyre is soaking that bottom temple. So yes, the top 4 will fall, and structurally 2ARC is ahead, but now there's that boss to account for.
And look at this. Trummel is just going to start sieging up. There's a few roaches in.
I like this.
And yeah, he's just putting that aggression.
I like what 2ARC is doing in response. They're just hard pushing this top lane and just Arrow back to defend. Wow, that's a very aggressive spot. He does have, of course, the stage dive to get himself out if the CC is too much.
And Ancestral, if absolutely necessary. But this boss is still something that has to be considered. It is a threat. Tassadar realizes the threat might have passed, and he's going to look to potentially push forward with his boss friend, because if you can get through these towers, I mean, any structure damage you do, there's no mule in this game.
Good points, good points. Yeah, Tassadar is pushing forward. So damage actually somewhat minimal, and 2ARC obviously calculated this and said, okay, we can actually end up pushing out just as much. How much? They actually got more damage done to the keep than Barrel Boys were actually able to accomplish with this boss. So it was a good call in the end.
Great call. I mean, it's such an even game. These guys are at the top for a reason. And, well, we can see the Bruisers are the only objective sitting on the map right now. Both teams posturing around, considering that Barricade picked up on Hammer.
To say that Barricade's back. Quibsy was actually probably the first person I saw grabbing this talent in general, of course.
Yeah,
at the end of the Concussive Blast, you'll see an impassable wall appearing. And with the extra range that Concussive Blast have now, we see it grab more and more. So it's an extra little perk to the Protect the Hammer style composition. Panucci perhaps lining up for a hook. Not going to be the case.
Yeah, so we saw the Bruisers were essentially traded out for the final fort on the side of 2ARC, and as the other Merc camp spawn, they will be cleaned up.
Right.
But yeah, just looking at the other like interesting talents, we see Healing Surge,
Healing Surge
opted for instead of the Feral Lunge.
I'm really going to be curious to see what role the hook has in these team fights for 2ARC. And we mentioned this before, how the synergy might not quite be there, and we may only see it used as a cleanup tool.
Very, very aggressive stage dive here by Urho. The Roots trying to zone out Blinks and Kionda, and it will stall them. But Chubbs is completely, you know, he's just completely locked down. He will lose his life. Ice Block, he's just buying as much time as he can. And unfortunately for Barrel Boys, the temples are not in the top. They are in the middle and the bottom lane.
That's right. Still, though, they will get themselves a nice position for the middle temple. 2ARC rotating to the bottom lane. Will Barrel Boys actually get aggressive, realizing that they have a free 25 seconds without one of their supports? I'm curious to see. Actually, I think this is very forward for 2ARC. I'm shocked at this.
All right. Mega Smash Pulverize picked up from Stitches. So that's going to be a big key in these fights to just kind of keep them locked down. But look at this.
Am I missing something?
It's 4v5. And yeah, I mean, I expect them to get collapsed on. We see ETC back here does not have stage dive available. It is on cooldown, and we can see the Maw is not going to connect with anything.
The Bridge of Death. If that's a situation you can't escape from for an Odin, that's it. Kionda able to throw down a ton of auto attacks, and Blinks is just barely going to get the Ancestral Healing off onto himself. And we have the Sergeant Hammer has fallen down. Panucci, and I think that perhaps they are regretting that slightly forward position, given the information that they had about where Barrel Boys were. Maybe just taking that bottom temple was perhaps the right call.
Yeah,
who knows? Maybe they just had a read on Barrel Boys that they just weren't going to get aggressive or try to capitalize on that. But
yeah, just very, very risky play. Not really paying off here. Is he going to be able to get out of there with Sprint? Grenade has already been used. Of course, Malfurion did take some of the shots from this temple. He got almost half the temple's duration during that. So after he respawned, beeline to the temple. But now we do see that the Blinks has finally picked up the final shots from bottom temple. Urho will get the final shots from the middle temple. And we still have Stitches who will just be respawning, waiting to rejoin that fight.
Yep. Barrel Boys capitalizing on this quick 2 kills that they were able to get, punishing the potential mistake for 2ARC. They capture both the temples, they capture the offensive giants, and find themselves in a sizable lead moving forward.
Now, look at how defensive this Tychus build is. We talk about Odin, and one of the differences to Odin from when it used to be popular is now you can use those auxiliary abilities while you're in the Odin form. So First Aid, Stone Skin, you can cast both of those, and Relentless makes it very hard to stop the Odin.
Right. Good points all around. I like the Imposing Presence pickup actually on both teams. Odin does get a lot of its effectiveness out of its auto attacks, and also Archon too, you can't discount that. And also the Imposing Presence to deal with Hammer, but the stage dive is thrown down.
And the Putrid Bile is used in reaction, but this Odin comes from the back. A nice big maul picking up 2 players. Panucci is very low, and he will end up falling. Odin is getting that damage. Trader next to fall. If you cannot stop the Odin, you are just going to get melted. Chubbs uses that ice block, dashing forward with the Odin, picking up both Quibsy and Chubbs, and the only one to get out of this fight is going to be Furious D, a 5 or 4 for 0.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And it's all about the Odin. The maw placement was right. It was perfect. They were able to capitalize and get a ton of damage. Not only that, but they isolated the right targets out of the maw. Like, they had exactly enough damage to kill Stitches before everyone returned out of the maw. Had a ton of AoE to lay down. Not much more to say about that other than that's what you would expect to see for a 4-0. And they're actually going to end it now. I'm actually a little bit shocked.
Yeah.
I guess they have the damage, though.
It was such a clean fight. I mean, it's rare to see one team fight end the game like that, but if you take it that cleanly,
yeah,
and since that keep was so low,
it has to do with the amount of HP that they had left over.
Right.
If they were missing a lot without the double support, not going to happen. But yeah, they ended with so many resources still available other than the heroics, but those weren't really going to make the difference in killing that core. And Kubi, that was a quick game.
We talk about Odin not being popular anymore, and for a long time we're like, man, I really think Tychus is being slept on. I really think Tychus is being slept on. He did so much damage in that fight.
He did. And with the laser drill coming back in some games too,
I like
Tychus is back.
I like it.
He's back, baby.
It's all because they gave him that little tracer patch on his shoulder. It's the only reason he's doing well.
You mean the Widowmaker one?
No, the tracer one.
The Widowmaker one.
No, the tracer one.
Oh, you're just mistaken. I don't know. Just facts is facts.
Tracer 1 is better. Guys, I have to do this.
He's having a difficult time navigating chords. It's just not going to happen. Just let it go.
Team Tracer. All right. All the fanboying aside, really well played from both teams. That game was so back and forth, and then just like both teams really, they had their plan set in stone. Like, no, we want to push this top lane, and we want to capitalize on that. And Tuark was like, we want to push this middle lane, and we want to capitalize on that. And it was just it was like a mirror image of each team.
That's what's fun about watching the competitive scene progress more and more. We see these really specialized, finely tuned early game strategies that involve like, okay, if we get X amount of damage done early to this fort, we can capitalize with the first temple that we capture. We saw some of this like with Blackheart's Bay.
Right.
If you take out that first temple, the first turn-in takes the fort. We're seeing more and more of those types of plays. And not only that, but it's also being specialized to the teams. Some teams prefer to make this play, and some teams prefer to make this play based on how aggressive they are, or what kind of compositions they draft.
Yeah,
I love seeing
same
like,
kind of thing with the
development.
mercenary camps. Like, all right, we're going to wait and we're going to stall the bruisers out. Barrel Boy's like, no, we're going to grab them and apply that aggression early and throw ETC with them. That's like a different spin on it, and it worked for them. So really well played by both teams. We're going to find out where we're going to go for game 2.
That's right. So we have a 1-0 advantage for Barrel Boys. How is Tuark going to bring it back? What kind of a series we're going to have? We'll find out. Be back in 5 minutes, guys.
What is up, guys, and welcome back here to the ESL Major League. I am Solid Jake,
And I'm Kubi.
and well, this is the second game.
Indeed, it is. We just watched the first game.
Wow,
That
who
would
would've
make
thought,
this the second game.
So
I know it's a lot to take in.
So
just but I'd say that the game up until level 10, very close. A lot of cool strategies that both teams were putting forward, especially map dependent wise.
Yeah.
Putting their own flair on it. Really cool stuff. And then there was a couple questionable plays, I'll say, from 2Arc, and things really just kind of spiraled out of control for them moving forward. There's some really nicely navigated team fights for Barrel Boys in terms of using the Maw in combination with Odin.
Yeah, just the
Looked
Odin positioning
impressive.
too. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta be kind of sneaky with the Odin.
So I'm saying you got to flank with it.
If you can flank with it, it's kind of hard to flank with a Gundam because Gundams are large.
No, man, you just pop out from behind the building and be like, surprise Gundam, and then they're like, we can't deal with that. We gotta run. Oh, we can't run because that's where we need to run. That's the power of Odin, guys. We saw it.
So
I'm happy.
you know how you beat a Jaeger? You use a Kaiju. Maybe
Diablo?
2Arc needs to run Diablo.
Kaiju. Jake, what reference are you making here? Wait, oh, I thought you had your what's the name of that? Pacific Rim. I thought you had. Don't you have a Pacific Rim shirt?
I need one now that
you had one.
Now that you say this, the fact that I don't own one is disgusting because I love that movie. I'm obsessed with it. I love that movie
To the point where you buy Pacific Rim coffee because it says Pacific Rim on it.
Hey, it's hey.
I will call you out on this every time you bring the movie up.
Good. Okay. ESL Major League Americas, guys. This is the final match in the group stage. Match point for Battle
Not necessarily the final match.
I said match
Final
point.
series.
Final series.
Final series.
Well, match in series could be the same thing depending on the league that actually uses the terminology. It's not necessarily the final game.
It's the final play day. Final play day.
Okay. Vala is going to be the ban, a very uncommon ban, even though she is often first picked. This is
I'll explain why.
signaling.
No, I have no idea why.
I was going to say I was going to say they want Iliad at first pick.
It could be a semi-throwaway ban, but the reason that she's not really banned is that she's kind of a jack of all trades, but she's not really so good that you need to ban her. Does that make any sense? Right?
Yeah.
Like she's good, but not like ban-worthy good. She's like very stable in her position. Like not a lot has been found out about Vala compositionally anywhere within the last 4 months, and they haven't really made any massive changes to her. So we're looking at a situation where it just doesn't really make sense to ban her because you know what to expect out of her.
Yeah, very, very true. But Uther is going to be the first pick that we see.
What does this point to? I want to see an aggressive play style.
Yeah, me too.
I want to see 2Arc go back to the days of the aggression. We have seen them run actually Hammer and Tyrael before, which is we were scratching our heads at it, but they really made it work in using defensive judgment, which is just a crazy thing. And this was after Castasite was nerfed too. So that said, though, I think if you're gonna grab, well, I was gonna say Uther really makes sense for aggressive playstyle, but Rhaegar can as well if you pick up Illidan with it. And are we going to see the classic Rhaegar Illidan for the number 2-3 picks?
I would be very pleased because that is such a powerhouse combination. But we'll see. Barrel Boys
They're thinking
is
about
well
it.
aware that Uther deals with Illidan to decent effectiveness. He's got those double stuns, and that's kind of what Illidan hates, is being stun locked.
This is true. Most people don't like being stun locked.
You know, some heroes do.
What if there was a hero that had like an ability to like turn on anti-stun lock, and it's like every time he got stunned, he got like power-ups?
Make it happen. It needs to be like an immortal, where like you're damaged. No, just give us, what's her name? Zarya, the new Overwatch character.
Oh, with the shield?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Something like that.
Right, where it's like you throw it down on that
powers her
person
up.
right before the person you think is going to get stunned, and if they do get stunned, like it would just like,
It reverse stuns.
oh!
Just sends the stun back in their face. Oh, we can hope that these kind of mechanics exist in the game at one point because that's really fun, really exciting, allows for just cool kind of plays. But Illidan is, of course, picked up with that Rhaegar, so they're not afraid of the stuns, and they quickly respond with just straight up static
Yeah.
Strong heroes.
2Arc picked those 2 heroes very quickly. I think they had a pretty good idea. Barrel Boys was pausing for a while on the Illidan, gave 2Arc time to think. I think a lot of us are thinking it's probably Illidan. Who we're going to pick in that case? It's going to be Tassadar ETC.
Yeah.
Stable heroes.
I mean,
working a lot of comps.
Super solid, but we're seeing Barrel Boys go for the Tychus early with Zagara.
Tychus Zagara, the same pick.
Maw is just proving to make some of these other heroics increase in effectiveness. Now, we saw great use on the Odin, and we could see it again, but Laser Drill works in the same kind of sense that if you get a good Maw, you just throw a Laser Drill down next to it. But I've really enjoyed the Odin play in that last game.
With the exception, the big difference between the two is the lack of AoE for the Laser Drill.
True. That's a huge point. It's a huge point, though.
Probably more damage output if it is allowed to run its full duration, Laser Drill. But if it comes down to hitting a lot of AoE, Odin is better, right? So you have to kind of look at the enemy composition, the rest of your composition, and try to figure out which will get you more utility. More damage output. More deeps. More deeps, as they say. 2Arc haven't really shown their hand yet. This is a very, very neutral composition, especially Tassadar.
But
ETC speaks to that as well.
Looking at the options, we've got Ravenous Spirit, we've got Sergeant Hammer. They could go for double tank if they wanted to. I don't know if that makes sense. Vikings are always a threat. We haven't seen them today, but they're still very good.
Very, very good. Yes, Cursed Hollow too. Large map, plenty of area to spread out. Jaina. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not really sure what to say. Maybe Malf?
It's tough. I almost want to say Kerrigan, but it's so uncommon.
The blow-up comp, I mean, could happen. But is the effectiveness there late game?
Yeah, I would prefer to see Hammer. Just for, like, a lot of damage.
Yeah, there's enough protection in the form of Uther and ETC.
And Tassadar.
Yeah, Tassadar can be forward knowing that he has Dimensional Shift to get out of sticky spots and the shield. And then protect Jaina, protect Hammer. It could work. They could also run a second healer. Take Malf.
Yeah, Malf? They're thinking about it, because that is actually a solid option. To have Malfurion. I don't like double tank with this.
No, I was running through the list of tanks in my head.
I don't like it.
ETC, Tyrael, Stitches, none of those. You just don't have the damage backing
The only one that I would go with is Sonya. If any tank.
Yeah, because of the Sonya Uther. I don't recall 2Arc running too much of that combination.
Yeah, I don't.
So I want to say it's unless they've changed that philosophy lately, it's not really something that's in their repertoire.
False Father.
False Dad. I like it. We've been seeing the return of False Dad. I gotta watch his build, because I've got like Kubi's special build.
I need a real build though. I'm the same way.
What do you mean, bro? I just told you Kubi's special build last night. It's awesome.
It's okay.
What do you mean it's okay? I swear, if he takes the exact same build that I run, okay, that is like double flips. Okay. I could just make that call. That's fair, right?
That's fair.
That's fair?
No.
Double flips.
I don't remember the build, so you can just lie to me.
I will tell you the build right now. Okay, Seasons Marksman. We'll know right away, because if he just doesn't take Seasons Marksman is a crazy pick. Seasons Marksman, Gathering Power, First Aid, Hinterlands, Giant Killer, Overdrive, and then level 20 is Nexus.
All right, so if he
Nexus
doesn't
Frenzy.
take it, I get flips.
What?
It's got to go both ways. You can't just have like conditions where you can't lose.
Because it's such a ridiculous call. I just look silly.
I never get free flips.
You had the chance. I gave you a chance to like redeem all of your flips.
Dibbles!
That's doubles or nothing.
Lord Dibbles was picked up, and I like this, especially when you consider Maw Lightning Breath, Maw Apoc or Maw Lightning Breath. They're both very good.
Yes. Yes, both of those are very good. I was like, oh, do you want more stuns or do you want more damage? They both can work out, especially when you have either Odin or Laser Drill behind it.
Well, we'll see if they want to
make
kebabs or if they want to just stun things out. Now, of course, having those stuns increases the effectiveness of Illidan because you get a big Maw and then you just get that metamorphosis in there, follow up with whatever you want. But I really like the idea of having Lightning Breath because suddenly, of course, Lightning Breath also paired with Ancestral Healing. Because the thing about Lightning Breath is you can kind of burn Stitch or Diablo down because he's immobile, but you just Ancestral, just like, you know. just give him the green light.
How does he say it? Does he yell at
Ancestral.
it? Does he yell? He should.
Ancestral.
It should just like calm all of the other noise in the game, just ancestral. And the audio just comes flooding back in. It'll be like when we're underwater with web wrap.
Oh man,
but just make it so that ancestral.
That still happens, by the way.
I know.
cast
it's the best.
a new brag game today, and it's still there. We don't see him too often competitive, but it's still there.
There was a
Blizzard, we're looking at you.
A brief stint of the Anubarak web wrap. Fun times.
All right, well, introducing the teams on the blue side of the map. That is Tuark Iliad with Furious D playing as Falstad Chubbs on Uther. And look at the synergy, so fashionable. Trader going to be playing Tassadar Quibsy on Jaina. And last but not least, we have Panucci on ETC.
That's right, and Barrel Boys on the red side, starting out with a 1-0 victory. We have McIntyre on Illidan, Blinks is going to be playing Rhaegar, Trummel on Zagara, Arrow on Diablo, and Kionda on Tychus.
They put a little effort into their pre-gate shenanigans. They
Who
at
did,
least
Tuark?
danced together.
Oh.
No, Kionda and Trummel, they at
Yeah.
least danced.
Okay.
So I'll give them a C. I'll give them a C.
Ah, you went power throw. What is this? I'm upset.
Thank goodness. I saw Kubi's build last night. I just remember dismissing it, essentially. So
You dismissed top damage in the game? You just dismissed that? We wouldn't have won if it wasn't for my Falstad. I'll make that claim.
okay.
Slight party bush.
Yeah.
In between mid and top lane for Tuark.
And
Actually, trying to capture Arrow
Yeah,
out of position. Do they have the stuns in place? I think they do. Actually, I'm a little shocked. Panucci didn't push the... Oh! Yes! That is the power Diablo. You've got to be careful. And I was like, oh, wait, why did Panucci not dash forward? That's why. That's why he didn't go too far forward.
all of that was like so clutch because if he got hit by one clip from the Blizzard, he would have died before getting up the wall.
Yeah.
And although he did end up dying, he traded out Uther, and that is so
Made
well
the best
worth
of a pretty bad situation, right?
it. Yeah. So nicely done. And then of course we did have Rhaegar rotate up to soak his lane for him. Blinks will return to the bottom lane now that Diablo is back in action. Those early game death timers are very short. And just kind of looking at this, we do see corpse feeders on Zagara,
right.
so that's one hero that we see a lot of different variables on. And as we say that, Zagara, well, the variable is that she's dead.
The curse. Oh, Chubbs actually dodging that grenade, almost thinking about going forward to try to pick up a kill on the Kionda. Not gonna be the case. So we do have this three-person lane in the bottom lane, and of course ETC mid and Falstad top. He has that extra mobility, so it makes a lot of sense to see Falstad in one of the exterior flanking lanes. That's one of the powers of Falstad. We just haven't been able to cast him that much lately. He just has fallen out of favor.
I mean, the meta is always shifting.
It really is.
Falstad both crawling back on into this meta. Even Zagara picking up a lot of popularity, and we can see those level 4 talents have been achieved for both teams. This is looking like a very Jake style so far. I mean, we got the power throw, we've got the charged up. You really spec into that W, the burst becomes pretty real.
So whatever build this Falstad takes is going to be the Jake style.
You want me to send you replays?
Yeah, okay. You can send me replays, I bet. If he has the exact same build that you take, no, because you can just pick any replay.
No, I use bribe a lot. So
I like it.
I'm
Honesty.
I'm just teasing you.
Honesty. I like that. What a guy.
I like bribe.
Such classy.
Bribe's a fun talent.
All right, first tribute has spawned. It's going to be in between top and mid lane. Looks as though Tuark has a very favorable position for it. And Barrel Boys opting to have a heavy push in the bottom lane. With Zagara, we talked about this time and time again. Has she played all 4 games we've casted so far?
I
think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she has. And, well, the time has come for Zagara to reign supreme potentially in the meta. And we can just see the push power, the power that the Maw has had. I mean, it's a playmaker hero.
Yeah.
And those have always been very popular.
Still on the other side of the map, Tuark has a pair of giants pushing, and honestly, Falstad with the extra lightning strikes, he can really duel it out with Illidan.
Jake build's pretty good.
So,
But look at this bottom fort. I mean, between Zagara, between these giants, it is absolutely just melting and melting point, and that's part of the equation.
this is the second one that you've thrown at me within the past 30 seconds. Like, if I shake my head any higher, I'm going to get a concussion. All right. It's interesting that they're putting their effort into this particular lane. It's almost as if they're planning to try to get an offensive steal onto Tuark's golem. Usually, you see the team will push out in relation to their own golem. so they know that like their goal will have more of a free ride to try and get to the fort or the keep. So I'll be paying attention to that to see if they have plans for more offensive golden steals.
Well, we're going to see what happens here as the second trio of the game has spawned, and it looks like Barrel Boys is actually just going to give it up again. Now, we are not close to level 10 quite yet, but they're playing cautiously. They know that Tuark was already in position, and engaging into a very comfortable posture like that can be rough. Look at this though, Holy Devotion picked up on Uther, not opting for Cleanse. They say, all right, well they've only got Diablo, not opting for the Clairvoyance. Very interesting pickup.
Right. Also, the other one that's jumping out at me is Ice Lance, which is the cooldown reduction. 2 seconds. That is not a normal.
This is actually the Jake build.
This is the Jaina build. Is the actual Jake build?
The one that I use currently, yes. I love Ice Lance. I always have.
But would you expect to see the range increase at level 1?
No. It's the additional slow is just too good.
Okay.
It's just too good. Back in the day, I liked it. But all right, well, all things aside, level 10 has been picked up here for Tuark Gaming, and we do have the Hypnoblins Blast, the Stage Dive, the Archon Divine Storm, and of course the Water Elemental.
Would expect to see all of these heroics. Man, Mosh Pit has just not been picked up much lately. Really, teams have gotten very comfortable with the split push capability that ETC has suddenly found himself in. These teams have gotten so good with their map awareness and just knowing where everyone else is on the other side of the map. They can push far, far away, dive in at the right time, and really just lay down the hurt from the back line of the enemy team.
All right, well, the tribute has spawned, the third tribute of the game, and Barrel Boys does not just want to give up a free curse. They gave up those 2 tributes. The pressure is on to cap this, and they're getting in position slowly but surely. And it looks like Tuark is actually fearful. There's no urgency for them to stop it, and it will be picked up by Barrel Boys.
Odin or Drill? Odin?
He's thinking.
Or Drill.
I like that he's holding that. I love that he's holding that because he could pick it up when the fight happens and just use it, and they can't react to it until they know what's happening. And
that's a good point.
I think that's the nice thing about having. You mentioned that they both fulfill a very similar role,
but they have different responses.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, it's a good point to bring up that they can hold that to the last second. And, all of a sudden there's a laser drill in front of our face. We need to focus this down. Or now there's an Odin throwing skill shots from really far away. We need to position ourselves accordingly to this. So cool. I like to see this type of play, and I think we will see more and more of this sort of quote-unquote talent holding, especially on these very critical, where there's very good options for both that require different responses.
If you're not getting effectiveness out of it until you actually use it, you actually force the enemy team to like constantly have to like check, because you can hit tab to look, but no, actually we do see Odin is picked up. It's like, I'm sick of waiting. I'm gonna grab it. He picks up that Odin, and the Shadow Charge onto Panucci, just applying a bit of damage. But there goes the Odin, and again, the timer on it is not that long, but the range is huge.
The Maw.
Where is it? Where is it? Hypnoblins Blast hits so many targets, absolutely just eliminating them. We see the Lightning Breath, the Odin, they're dealing the damage. Panucci is very low. Illidan, the Shadow Charge going for it. They managed to pick up the kill. 3 for 1 so far right now. Chubb's going to try to get out, but Illidan, if he's good at one thing, it is track and field, and he will chase. Urho's going to get tributes 2-2 right now, but 4-1 in terms of kills.
Yeah, that was we didn't have Tassadar there for some chunk of that fight, but it was just really Barrel Boys were able to land just about all of their skill shots, even saving Maw. They didn't need it; they just had everything lined up. Odin was able to get a ton of effectiveness, and when all that lines up, yeah, you tend to get a couple kills.
And then a boss.
But
13 has been reached by both teams, and we can see that Icy Veins is going to be picked up for Jaina. So this makes Jaina incredibly bursty, and you throw Static Shield onto Falstad. That gives Falstad a little bit more sustainability. Stage Dive going in by Panucci, but Urho, he is there. They're trying to mitigate that stop. They're trying to blow it up. There's the Ancestral. The boss has been picked up by Barrel Boys, and Panucci is going to lose his life.
That seemed like probably a bit of a miscommunication between the team. I think that they just weren't really ready to commit to that. As soon as ETC dived in, he said, "Oh, wait a minute, team's not here," or they just last minute changed their mind on that. Unfortunately, as soon as that stage dive goes down, you need to commit. And if you hesitate on that, and as you saw, I dashed out, you're one, giving up the boss without getting any kills, and you're dying yourself. So unfortunately, just, yeah, like I said, bit of a miscommunication error. And there's that offensive giant for Barrel Boys. Golem, I should say, sorry.
Yeah, so they throw their healer Blink's back. He's not going to dish out that much damage. The rest of them start on this boss. They have a curse. Top boss is going to end up taking out this fort. Not going to get much more than that. Bottom boss going to push free range, and they will go to the middle lane to finish out that fort. No, they're just going to walk around the back. This could be really bad for Quibsy.
Oh, it's impossible for him to get out of that situation. Just weren't ready for the party push.
Yeah,
that hurts.
That hurts.
They've been just chaining together a ton of kills. 2Arc needs to settle down. First of all, they need to make sure that their positioning is very tight from here on forward, because the level lead that we're starting to see, it's 2, it's right over a critical level. They have those 16 talents, so 2Arc, they need to calm down, reset the playing field, level-headed, and make decisions that are going to get themselves back in the game. Because honestly, just having like Jaina, it didn't look like it would really be that bad of a position, because it's like, oh, why would they run through here? But they're that far ahead that they can make those crazy type of plays.
But we've got to look at the situation now. We've got the Firestorm, the double Blood for Blood, the double Hydra, or double Mutalisk in this case.
Yeah, it's
power
going to be it's going to be difficult to make this comeback. What do we need to see? With the Icy Veins, we have quite a bit more damage potential, which means that we need to have the lockdown for Jaina to be able to get in to set up for that situation. So it's going to... the positioning is tough, because really you're putting a lot on Uther. And yes, they have the Holy Devotion, right? So they're trying to make use of it while it's still in the game. But yeah, maybe they need to try to set up a team fight where they almost sacrifice Uther, go in, land that amazing Divine Storm, and if you give a situation, obviously they're going to need to try to get to level 16. They need to get the Overdrive for Falstad. If they can land an Overdrive Tinderwind's Blast, with the Divine Storm and Icy Veins throwing a ton of damage down, they've got a chance still. But they have to really think about the positioning and how they're going to set that particular situation up. That's one of the only ways that I can see them really making it back in this game.
Well, we'll see what they can do. One thing that I just want to point on and just kind of harp on is the creep spread. If you look at the pink area on the map, the whole top and whole bottom, they have vision on any possible path through the center of the map. So they just have eyes on anywhere 2Arc goes. And 2Arc, not only do they have that keep down, but I mean, they just have complete vision up the map constantly. It's like having map hacks. That is the power of Zagara on these larger maps. True. And I mean, I'm just got to give props to Trumbull on just constantly keeping this creep spread, opting for the endless creep instead of rapid incubation or even battle momentum. So
I like the double imposing presence pickup. For 2Arc, they have Odin to deal with, they have Illidan to deal with. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So good talent choices there. I like the Overdrive. I talked about that before. And what did they grab for Jaina here? Oh, okay, that's the vulnerability. That increases their odds to really land that. I'm going to call it, quote-unquote, a wombo. It's sort of a really odd style wombo, but that's really what they need to do to bring themselves back in this game.
Well, we see 2Arc has just been defending. Yes. Quibsy gonna blow up those giants as they walk in, but the next tribute has spawned, and, well, I mean, Bear Boys, they're gonna be well positioned.
Yes, not a critical tribute for 2Arc to try and capture, and I actually don't like them trying to contest it if they do. It's going to be obvious with all this creep spread around, like what they're positioning. They really need to try to catch Barrel Boys out of position or just off guard. Okay, and they are doing just that. They are going to back up. They need to just continue. They need to clear this creep. It is starting to hurt, because the further this game goes on, with so few structures having been taken down on the 2Arc side, or 2Arc hasn't really taken that many structures down, it's going to come down to really awesome positioning and catching Barrel Boys off guard. With all this creep spread everywhere, that's not happening. Now, so that's their first priority.
They can use Oracle to quickly try to clear that up. So if they go as a team, pop Oracle, and then try to spread all that out, Panucci goes in with the stage dive, but he's going to find nothing. So that's a heroic used for basically a just engagement that got just washed away.
The cooldown's fairly high. It's the right call to back up. They just didn't. If they're going to go in, it has to be perfect, right? And if they see something that's less, okay, we'll wait out the couple minutes till we can take our next team fight. I don't like them going.
Jaina's a little bit out of position. Tychus in the backline. Kyonda could just turn around and find Quibsy. He's gonna see her, and he wants to try to flank with that Odin. So that is a big part of this fight over the Tribute. Those Mutas just kind of being obnoxious, dishing out a bit of damage, and Healing Ward being used in the back line.
They have to make sure that they do not clump up. If Trumbull lands a really nice Maw, and he's so close to being able to hit that, it's going to spell a disaster for 2Arc. And they actually managed to back Barrel Boys up enough to not commit. And they're going in now.
Urho in the front line, he gets stunned out, but he does. He's able to back on out. Hinterland Blast only connecting with one member, and then Trumbull will fall in the bottom, but that Lightning Breath, not quite enough to dish out the damage they'd want. Diablo falls very quickly, and this looks so good from 2Arc Gaming. We see Quibsy does fall, but he did a lot of damage in that fight. And Panucci, they're trying to ruin Hyunda's day. Ancestral will connect at the last possible second, and they might be able to turn this around. McIntyre trying to back out. The stun from Uther is going to be there, but he uses the minion to get on out. Blinks picks up that kill on Uther. Remember, he does have the talent for the Ghost form, and that's a big factor in this fight.
And this, the end of this fight is really coming down to Illidan. If he's got the ability to survive here, he can really clean up the fights. And that actually ends up being a 5-for-2 in the end.
Yeah, and of course Diablo had Soul, so he's already back in action here, already making his way up to the top part of the map to clean up that wave. Of course, you have to consider that Curse is a big factor.
Yes.
But that's big Ancestral, and if you cannot kill Illidan, he just stays alive.
If you cannot kill Illidan, he stays alive. I get what you're saying. Yes, he has a ton of ability to sustain during the team fight with his trait to lifesteal on those auto attacks. So this is going to be a Golem in the bottom lane. Do they take a more passive approach? I think so, given the death timers that are on the board just to 10 seconds before the rest of 2Arc is back up. They're just probably going to take the safe play, take the camps that are available on the map, and just continue with this map dominance.
Yeah, this boss is their objective. They're going for it. Zagara picked up the bruisers. Bottom boss picked up aggressively. That means 2Arc has to defend it. We can see the keep hasn't taken any damage yet, but that's about to change. And I think they'll probably end up marching on in after they pick up this boss on their right side of the map.
We have level 20 grabbed for 4 members of Barrel Boys. Tyka's still remaining undecided. He's just having one of those days where he just can't make up a mind.
Now, remember, both of the Storm can be used while loaded.
Yes.
And that's a pretty big deal, because back in the day, you couldn't do that.
Nexus Frenzy, pretty big deal.
That's also true, but there's double imposing presence.
That is also true.
There's a lot of variables here.
Yes, very good point. So we do have the Bolt for Illidan and Zagara for that safety. The Rewind on Rhaegar, and just for those extra heals and shielding, and the Storm Shield. So a lot more tankiness available for Barrel Boys.
That's the kind of stage dive you want ETC going in. We have the Archon, but the Metamorphosis is a nice response. Storm Shield goes in out of Diablo. The Lightning Blast picks up the kill on both Diablo, Chubbs, and Trader gets very low, but will back out. 3 for none so far. Trader gets flipped. Prescience not going to be there. Panucci not going to be there. That's going to be it.
That is going to be a 5-for-0. I think the big issue with that fight was they just didn't really sync up a lot of their burst damage. There was a split, I think, the focus for whom Jaina was trying to hit, which made sense because there was a lot of AoE targets. So like, you want to try to hit multiple people to get more effectiveness out of it. But then the Hinterland Blast was thrown down onto Tychus, who was flanking from the side, and Odin. And when you have a composition that's really focused on just trying to throw all of your AoE and damage down into one particular set of targets to try to pull people out of the fight right away, if the communication isn't there, it's going to be tough to really try to clean those team fights up.
Convincing play, though, by Barrel Boys.
Yeah.
Noticed we were talking about the Maw so much in the draft. It was almost never used in fights. It was almost never needed in fights. We saw that Maw at the end.
Yeah.
He just like, oh, look, I still have this.
Yeah, they were able to sync up their positioning well enough.
It's convincing play.
Yeah.
Very convincing play. But, well, that's it for the group stage.
That is it. Barrel Boys takes a 2-0 advantage. I think that will drop them, drops 2Arc down to 3rd place. Tempo Storm will now be in 2nd. Barrel Boys finishes the season with a flawless record at 7-0. Congrats to them. That is no easy feat.
As good as it gets.
Looking at the teams going in, I wouldn't have guessed that Barrel Boys would be the team to go undefeated. I think a lot of people probably had Tempo Storm pegged out for that. And if it's not Tempo Storm, I think you would say any other team would have a very difficult time going 7-0. So kudos to Barrel Boys for having such an impressive run through the group stage. But you know what, Jake? It's not over yet.
Oh, no.
Go time is not here.
This is actually just kind of the beginning. This is, again, the group stage. That's essentially the preliminary stage where there's no money for this.
Right.
This is strictly to qualify for the actual prizing. So this is where things start to get ridiculous. Each match means so much moving forward.
Yes, it does. So we're going to be starting the playoffs. I believe it is next Friday. I don't know the times just yet, but I think we're going to be starting with the first 2 games. There's going to be a double elim bracket for the top 4 teams.
Yes, 8 days
Best
from
of
now.
5s.
8 days.
Yes, 8 days. Friday next week.
Yeah.
So we're going to be starting the first 2 series off. I think that's just going to be winners round 1. Between, we actually know this now. It's going to be Barrel Boys versus Cloud Knight Maelstrom on one side of the bracket, and we're going to have Tempo Storm versus 2 Arc Iliad on the other side. So those will be the first 2 best of 5s that we end up casting on Friday, and then the following day we're going to cast, I believe, losers round 1, losers finals, and grand finals, and winners finals. Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot of series. That's going to be some awesome games.
It's really awesome games, and we can just take a look. This should be the final standings for the season, with Barrel Boys going 7-0. We have Tempo Storm and 2 Arc tying it up at 5-2. Maelstrom placing 4-3. Those are the 4 teams that we just talked about. They qualified for playoffs. And then we have 4 teams going down to relegations.
That's right.
Murlocs Inc., EG, Lunatic, and Synapsis. But actually, breaking news, Murlocs Inc. disbanded last night. There's going to be a lot of new teams forming because there's a lot of free agents. ESV Wildfire just disbanded, and we know Synapsis disbanded. So after the end of seasons, this happens very frequently in competitive gaming.
Yep.
Teams say, all right, well, we didn't win, therefore we need to make changes. So there will be a lot of new squads being formed going into the upcoming season.
Right. To explain the relegations a little bit further, especially it might be a little bit confusing now that some teams have dropped out. Synapsis dropped out early enough in the group stage that we just decided to throw forfeits for everyone else, but because Murlocs dropped out after the playoffs, so they're still going to remain in that 5th spot, which means the Evil Geniuses now gets first pick for one of the 4 teams that goes through on the ESL monthlies, which the qualifiers are happening.
They choose their opponent to play in a best of 3 series.
In a best of 3 series. If they win, then they move on to go into ESL Season 2. Yeah. So Evil Geniuses will pick first, Lunatic will pick second, and then 2 teams, the teams that are left over, get free rides into Season 2.
That's pretty good.
That is pretty good. Just food for thought.
2 teams get free rides to qualify. Well, free rides. They won Go4Heroes events.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that they don't deserve to be in the spot they're in, but they don't have to go through relegations to get into Season 2,
which is a big deal.
Right,
which is a big deal.
Absolutely.
So that'll be very interesting, but we'll figure that all out, of course, after the playoffs, because that is what is next on our plate. Again, next Friday and Saturday, all the action is going to be happening. $4,200 prize pool.
$4,200. That's a lot of money.
It's a good chunk of change.
For such a young game.
Yeah.
Love it.
Closed beta.
Closed beta. Well, that story will resume next Friday. Jake, got any shout-outs? Got any?
Yeah.
Where can we find you?
You can follow me, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, of course. I plugged my show a few times today. I do a new series called The Daily Quest, and it's very much geared towards being an educational series where I analyze viewer-submitted replays and pro-level replays, kind of just giving an introduction to a hero. So I try to give you guys a baseline as to how to play this hero, what the hero does, different builds that work with the hero. We look at a low-level game, or not low-level, but like a standard level, I guess, just a random replay. And then we look at a high-level game, and that's the idea. And we just kind of analyze the builds.
Sounds fun. Who's next? Who's the next hero?
The next hero?
Yeah.
Tomorrow, actually, it's not only heroes. We talk about maps. We talk about mechanics. So I think tomorrow is going to be a special episode based around mercenary camps and just optimizing mercenary camps. So that's tomorrow's theme.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, well, you guys can find me on Twitter at the Kubi, and also every Wednesday we do a little show called Town Hall Heroes. We have guests on pro players. We talk about the pro scene, all the happenings on the esports side of Heroes. We talk about everything else too, balance patches, etc. We had Glaurung on from Tempo Storm last night, and they, of course, just got a 2-0 victory, and they also secured themselves second place for the playoffs, so that's exciting.
Yeah.
We had him on talking, sharing his thoughts about the game.
Cool guy.
Cool guy indeed. They just moved into a team house.
I'm jealous.
Fun stuff.
A team mansion.
Team mansion. Yeah, this is a big house. Big house. Well, that's it for me.
Final shout out, Casting Titan Arena 2 this weekend.
Ooh,
so,
that's right.
So check out the Twitterverse for that. Sham2 and I will be casting Titan Arena 2.
Big chunk of change for a single weekend.
$2,500
Yep.
for this weekend just for that event. So You can find all these teams playing over there. It'll be a fun event.
That's
I think that wraps it up for us here tonight.
I think it does for the final day of the ESL Major League group stage. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We appreciate all the support. And I think that's it.
Yeah, until next time, guys.
All right.
Take care.